Benjamin stumbled through the door, exhausted after yet another grueling day at work. The house that used to feel like his sanctuary now seemed cold and empty. Dropping his keys on the entry table, he immediately felt that something was off. The silence was deafening. His heart started to race as he moved through the living room, noticing that the place felt untouched. As if no one had been there all day, he walked to the kitchen, hoping for a sign of life, but all he found was a white envelope on the table. His name was written on it in Grace's familiar handwriting. A chill ran down his spine as he picked it up. Hesitant, he sat down in the nearest chair, feeling a tightness in his chest. With trembling hands, he opened the envelope and pulled out a sheet of paper, already dreading what was inside. "Benjamin," the letter began. "I hope you can understand what I'm about to say. Over the past few months, I've been feeling lost and distant. The truth is, I've fallen in love with someone else." Each word felt like a punch to his gut. He kept reading, the pain growing with every line. Grace wrote that she had met someone who made her feel alive again. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. She'd tried to fight these feelings, but she couldn't keep living a lie. The ground seemed to fall away beneath him. They'd had their ups and downs like any couple, but Benjamin never imagined it would come to this. He gripped the letter tightly, unable to process the betrayal. Grace went on to say that she needed a fresh start, that she was asking for a divorce. She had already made all the arrangements, hired a lawyer, and wanted everything to be handled as quickly and smoothly as possible. Benjamin's heart shattered into a million pieces. The life he thought he'd built, the marriage he believed in, crumbled before his eyes. He recalled their early years together, the trips, the plans for the future, and now all of that seemed empty and meaningless. Grace ended the letter by saying that despite everything, she hoped he found happiness again and deserved someone who truly loved him, because she no longer could. Benjamin sat there, the letter still in his hands, trying to wrap his mind around how everything could end so suddenly. He glanced to the side and saw a stack of papers, the divorce documents. A wave of anger and pain washed over him. How could she be so cold, so calculated, preparing all of this without even talking to him first? Without giving him a chance to try and save their marriage? But deep down, he knew begging or trying to change her mind wouldn't help. Grace had already made her decision. With a heavy heart, Benjamin signed the papers. The pen felt like it weighed a ton as he wrote his name, formally ending a story he thought would last forever. When he was done, he stood up and walked to the living room, feeling empty and lost. All that was left was him, alone in a house that now seemed too big, too full of painful memories. From that moment on, he knew he would have to start over, but he had no idea what that would look like. He turned off the lights and went upstairs to his bedroom, hoping that the darkness and silence would bring some comfort, even though he knew that this would be the first of many sleepless nights. And the months that followed the divorce, Benjamin went through life on autopilot. Mornings were especially hard. Waking up in the room he used to share with Grace felt like a cruel reminder of her absence. Getting out of bed was a daily struggle, and he often found himself staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had changed so drastically. He tried to stick to a routine, hoping that fulfilling daily obligations would somehow fill the emptiness. But the pain was always there, insistent and throbbing. Work, which had once been a source of pride and fulfillment, had become a burden. Benjamin arrived at the office, greeted his coworkers with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and spent his hours trying to focus on tasks. But his mind kept drifting back to the same question. How did I not see this coming? Emails piled up. Meetings seemed endless. Benjamin sometimes just pretended to listen. His productivity plummeted, and his supervisor started to notice. There were concerned looks and colleagues asking if he was okay. But Benjamin didn't have the energy to explain. How could he? What could he say? He silently promises himself that he'll be there for her, just as she has been there for him. The afternoon sun starts to dip, casting a warm glow over the lake. They sit in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts, but for the first time in a long time, Benjamin doesn't feel the heavy weight of loneliness pressing down on him. Over time, their bond continues to grow. Benjamin notices the little things, how Olivia's eyes brighten when she talks about her dog, or how her laughter sounds like music to his ears. They start sharing more personal stories, Olivia telling him about her late husband's quirks, and Benjamin opening up about his own fears, regrets, and the ache of the divorce. It's not easy for either of them, But with each conversation, they both feel a little less broken. One evening, as they walk through the park near their building, Olivia shares her hesitations about moving forward, about feeling guilty for finding happiness again. She talks about the weight of living in the shadow of grief, and the fear that her late husband's memory will fade, that she might forget him in some way if she allows herself to embrace life again. Benjamin listens intently, his heart heavy with empathy. He reassures her gently that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means finding a way to carry forward the love without letting it hold you back. As their friendship blossoms, Benjamin begins to feel something more, something that feels familiar yet new. There's a warmth between them, a quiet understanding that has slowly transformed into something deeper. He finds himself looking forward to their time together, whether it's a simple coffee or a long walk through the city. Every interaction with Olivia feels like a step toward something he thought was out of reach. Hope. One evening after a particularly long day, Benjamin invites Olivia over to his apartment. He's been cooking dinner, and though he's nervous about what this new dynamic might mean, he's ready to see where it leads. When Olivia arrives, there's an unspoken warmth in the way they greet each other. They sit down to eat, and as they talk, Benjamin realizes that the pain he's been carrying doesn't feel so sharp anymore. With Olivia, it feels more like a scar, a reminder of where he's been but not something that defines him. After dinner, they sit on the couch, the familiar weight of silence between them, but this time it feels comfortable. Benjamin looks at Olivia, really looks at her for the first time in a while, and feels something stir in him. It's not a sudden realization, but a quiet understanding that maybe, just maybe, he's ready for something new. Not because he's forgotten the past, but because he's learned to embrace the future. As the night draws to a close, Benjamin walks Olivia to the door. She pauses before leaving, her hand on the doorknob. For a moment they just stand there, the air between them charged with something unspoken. Olivia smiles softly, a look of quiet understanding passing between them. "Good night, Benjamin," she says, her voice warm but cautious. "Good night," he replies, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of something more. "See you soon." As she leaves, Benjamin closes the door behind her and leans against it, the reality of the evening sinking in. He knows the road ahead won't be easy, and he knows that there will be difficult moments, but for the first time in a long while, he feels a glimmer of something that feels like possibility. Maybe life can be good again. Not perfect, but good. With Olivia by his side, Benjamin feels like he has a chance to rebuild piece by piece, and to find joy in the little things again. And maybe, just maybe, he'll find a way to let go of the past without losing himself in the process. Benjamin's heart races as Grace walks toward them, her presence like a shadow in the otherwise joyous atmosphere. She's with her new husband, a man Benjamin doesn't recognize, but her smile is all too familiar. It's the same smile that used to calm him, but now it feels almost mocking, like she's trying to convince herself of something. Olivia, sensing the tension, looks up at Benjamin, her hand tightening around his. He gives her a reassuring smile, though he can feel his stomach knotting. This isn't something he expected, not today, not at Lauren's wedding. Grace stops in front of them and without missing a beat, she greets Olivia with a feigned sweetness. "Benjamin," Grace says, her voice too soft, too pleasant, "I didn't know you'd be here with your friend." Her gaze flicks to Olivia with a look that feels more like a judgment than a greeting. Olivia, who has been nothing but polite and composed up until this point, gives Grace a brief nod but doesn't say anything. She's trying to read the room, to understand the history between these two, but Benjamin knows the tension is palpable. He steps forward, trying to defuse the situation, his voice steady but a little colder than usual. "We're here to celebrate Lauren," Benjamin says, his words clipped but calm. "Let's not ruin her day." Grace tilts her head slightly, a smirk playing at the corners of her lips. "Oh, Benjamin," she replies, her tone dripping with something sharp. "I didn't mean to ruin anything. I just wanted to say hello. After all, we have so much to catch up on, don't we?" Benjamin's pulse quickens, the old hurt rising up like a wave. He hasn't seen Grace since the divorce was finalized, and every encounter with her feels like a reminder of all the things that went wrong. The betrayal, the coldness, the way she walked away without a second thought. But he won't let her ruin this moment. Not today. He smiles at Olivia, then turns to Grace, his voice much firmer now. "We don't have anything to talk about, Grace. Not now, not ever. You made your choice. Please respect that. For a moment, Grace stands frozen, her expression unreadable. Benjamin can feel the weight of the years they spent together, the life they built, crashing down again, but he refuses to let it consume him. Olivia, sensing that this exchange is nearing its breaking point, steps closer to Benjamin. Let's go find Lauren, she says gently, her voice low but clear. She'll want us there. Grace's eyes flick to Olivia, an unreadable look passing between them, but she doesn't respond. With a final glance at Benjamin, she turns away, her new husband trailing behind her as they walk away. Benjamin exhales sharply, his breath shaky. He didn't expect to feel so vulnerable, so exposed in front of her. But Olivia's steady presence beside him, the quiet comfort of her hand in his, reminds him that he doesn't have to face the past alone. Lauren, oblivious to the tension, beams at them when they reach the reception hall, and Benjamin is reminded of what truly matters. The people who love him. The people who choose to stay as the evening continues. He focuses on the celebration, on the happiness surrounding Lauren's big day. And though the encounter with Grace lingers in the back of his mind, it no longer has the same hold over him. It's just a moment in the past. He's learned that the past doesn't get to define him anymore. By the end of the night, Benjamin and Olivia stand together, watching the newlyweds share their first dance. It's a peaceful, almost surreal moment, and Benjamin realizes that despite everything, despite the pain, the heartbreak, and the unexpected challenges, he's come a long way. For the first time in years, he feels like he's found a place where he belongs. A place where he can build something new, and where love, true unconditional love, can bloom again. With Olivia by his side, Benjamin believes that no matter what comes next, they'll face it together, and that the future, no matter how uncertain, holds the promise of something beautiful. Benjamin's voice is steady, though there's a storm brewing inside him. He looks Grace in the eye, his words measured but firm. Grace, I need you to understand something. I've moved on. I'm not the same person I was when we were together. What we had, it's in the past now. And I can't go back to that, no matter how much you want me to. Grace's face falters for a moment, but she quickly masks it with another attempt at persuasion, her voice tinged with desperation. I know I hurt you, Benjamin. But we were good together once, we can be again. I've thought about everything. I was wrong, I'm sorry. Please just give us another chance. We can fix this. I still love you. Her words hang in the air, but Benjamin feels none of the old pull. He looks at her not with anger but with something that feels like finality. No, Grace. You hurt me and I can't just forget that. You made your choice. You wanted something else and I respect that. But I'm not the same person I was when we were married. I'm not looking back anymore. I have a life now, a future. And it's with someone who truly respects and loves me. You've made your life and I've made mine. Please let me go. Grace's eyes well up, but Benjamin doesn't waver. He feels a flicker of sympathy for the woman she used to be, but he's long past trying to fix something that's broken beyond repair. She takes a shaky breath, the last bit of her resolve crumbling. I never thought you'd move on so quickly. I thought you'd come back. I don't know how to let go. You'll have to, Benjamin says, his voice softening just slightly but still unwavering. We both have to. It's the only way forward. There's a long silence between them. Grace looks down at her hands, defeated. Benjamin can see the hurt in her eyes, but he knows it's not his responsibility to fix it anymore. After a moment, she nods, more to herself than to him. I guess you're right. I need to move on too. Benjamin gives her a small nod, then stands up, his heart heavy but resolute. Take care, Grace. I hope you find the peace you're looking for. With that, he turns and walks away, his heart still pounding, but lighter than it has been in a long time. As he exits the cafe, he feels Olivia's presence behind him, her hand finding his in a silent show of support. When they get back to the car, Olivia looks at him, her eyes soft but knowing. You okay? She asks. Benjamin exhales slowly, finally feeling the weight of everything lifting. Yeah, it was hard but I'm okay now. I needed that closure, and now I can move forward completely. Olivia smiles, her hand tightening around his. And you don't have to do it alone. They drive home in quiet comfort, knowing that the past is behind them, and whatever lies ahead, they'll face together. It's a new chapter for both of them. A chapter they're ready to write side by side. Benjamin's voice is calm but firm as he faces Grace. Everything we had is over, he says, his words cutting through the tension. You destroyed that when you chose someone else. I suffered, I rebuilt myself, and now I have a life that you're not part of. You need to move on. I know, Grace interrupts, tears streaming down her face. But I can't. I was an idiot. That man meant nothing. You were everything to me and I threw it all away. Please just give me a chance to fix this. Benjamin studies her. The sincerity in her eyes mingled with desperation. Grace tilts her head slightly, a smirk playing at the corners of her lips. Oh, Benjamin, she replies, her tone dripping with something sharp. I didn't mean to ruin anything. I just wanted to say hello. After all, we have so much to catch up on, don't we? Benjamin's pulse quickens, the old hurt rising up like a wave. He hasn't seen Grace since the divorce was finalized, and every encounter with her feels like a reminder of all the things that went wrong. The betrayal, the coldness, the way she walked away without a second thought. But he won't let her ruin this moment. Not today. He smiles at Olivia, then turns to Grace, his voice much firmer now. We don't have anything to talk about, Grace. Not now, not ever. You made your choice. Please respect that. For a moment, Grace stands frozen, her expression unreadable. Benjamin can feel the weight of the years they spent together, the life they built, crashing down again, but he refuses to let it consume him. Olivia, sensing that this exchange is nearing its breaking point, steps closer to Benjamin. Let's go find Lauren, she says gently, her voice low but clear. She'll want us there. Grace's eyes flick to Olivia, an unreadable look passing between them, but she doesn't respond. With a final glance at Benjamin, she turns away, her new husband trailing behind her as they walk away. Benjamin exhales sharply, his breath shaky. He didn't expect to feel so vulnerable, so exposed in front of her. But Olivia's steady presence beside him, the quiet comfort of her hand in his, reminds him that he doesn't have to face the past alone. Lauren, oblivious to the tension, beams at them when they reach the reception hall, and Benjamin is reminded of what truly matters. The people who love him. The people who choose to stay. As the evening continues, he focuses on the celebration, on the happiness surrounding Lauren's big day. And though the encounter with Grace lingers in the back of his mind, it no longer has the same hold over him. It's just a moment in the past. He's learned that the past doesn't get to define him anymore. By the end of the night, Benjamin and Olivia stand together, watching the newlyweds share their first dance. It's a peaceful, almost surreal moment, and Benjamin realizes that despite everything, despite the pain, the heartbreak, and the unexpected challenges,